Welcome to the Built for Anything podcast. I am your host, Hertz, and relationships are a major part of our lives. It becomes our identity. And what happens when you have to actually sever those relationships? And I'm not just talking about the relationship you may have with a significant other. I'm talking about relationships you can have with family, friends, co-workers, your job. It can be a very difficult time in your life. Which brings me to my guest. I have on this show right now, Zak Shelton. Now, Zak is an entrepreneur. He is an influencer, inspirational, motivational individual. He was on a documentary that I did recently called The Best Decision Ever. And I reached out to him and just wanted to catch up on some of the things that he has going on. I find him to be an interesting person. And lo and behold, once we get to start talking on this podcast, I'm sure you will notice things got very deep. We talked about a lot of different things. And I think if you're an individual out there who has gone through a breakup or just really any type of down in your life where you have to now become somebody different, right? Or you're trying to find out who you are. I really think you're going to appreciate this podcast and the conversation that we have. We really get in depth on a lot of different topics. And I hope that you take away from this podcast just that no matter what happens in your life, it's just a chapter in your life, right? You have the ability to write your own story. You have the ability to create new beginnings. And I am very excited to have him on the podcast. So without further ado, I bring to you Zak Shelton. Wait, but before we get to him, just want to say thank you to all the listeners out there. Thank you to all the new subscribers. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a comment, whether you're watching it on YouTube or whether you're listening to it on iTunes or Podbean or Google Play or whatever your favorite podcast app is. Please try and leave some feedback for me. I really do appreciate it. So that's enough of me talking. Enjoy the show. Welcome, everybody. I got with me today my guest, Zak Shelton. Thank you for coming by, bro.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I'm blessed to be here. Appreciate
it. Now, some of you guys out there may be familiar with Zak, may have seen him in particularly my documentary that I went and filmed over at his place, and I hope you guys have seen it. It's a dope documentary.
Gotta get it. Gotta watch it.
Best Decision Ever. Zak Shelton was in there. He was one of the couples in there talking about veganism, talking about relationships, and really his journey into becoming a vegan. And so, I asked him to come on the podcast to talk about really what this is for me, guys. This is me catching up with a friend as well.
That's what's up.
So, we're going to probably be touching on a lot of different topics. But guys, tell me, man, what you been up to, Zak?
Man, well, first of all, I love the show. I'm super excited about what you're doing. I really appreciated just you thinking about me and allowing me to be a part of the film that you made. So yeah, I've been up to a lot. I think when we spoke on the documentary, I talked a little bit about being in a relationship. We covered Courtney's and my experience getting together, and I know that there was a lot more to it than just we're a couple and we're dating and we're vegan and it's easy to eat together. But anyway, so what I've been up to since then, well, no longer in a relationship. Which is interesting, because I know on your film we talked a lot about how close our bond was, and there was a couple of lines in the film where I talked about how like it was kind of dangerous how amazing Courtney and I were together, and we were, but sometimes things people just kind of grow apart, and we were on divergent paths, and I think it was very adult of us to recognize that and be really self-aware.
And you guys were together for how long again?
3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Yeah. So not like a massively long-term relationship. Certainly the longest relationship I've ever been in. The most pivotal relationship I've ever been in. We are still really, really, really close. We talk every day. We own a business together, but we just, I think we decided that we would be better individuals, you know, apart from the relationship. So
I respect that too, by the way. You know, the fact that you guys were able to do that in a mature level, because things happen.
Right.
You know, I'm sure, you know, myself, I've been in a long-term relationship, so I know how it is when, you know, people just kind of grow apart. That happens. Sometimes you know, you have to be wise enough to identify it, and you got to always remember, like, your personal growth is important as well. Yeah. And sometimes you got to make decisions like that, man. And you guys are two awesome people. There's no doubt in my mind that regardless of what you guys decide to do, you guys are going to be successful.
Thank you for saying that. It means a lot coming from you, actually.
No, absolutely, man. But I think it's a very mature thing to do, especially as a man. Because I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of people out there could be real petty about things. You know, emotions get the best of us. Yep. And you know, I always tell a lot of brothers, you know, particularly men, like, you know, try not to let your emotions get the best of you and things like that. And it's very difficult. And I've seen people who their mind is in a different place, you know, especially when love is involved. You know, it's like they're not sane anymore. They don't do the logical thing anymore. It's like it's like all rules are broken, you know. But
well, full disclosure, like we did go through a period of time where it was like, okay, I'm like potentially I'm losing myself a little bit in this. And we had to try really hard to kind of like take a step back from that and realize, like, are we making the best decisions? Are we being the best to ourselves and to each other? And it went on for a while, you know, because when you envision, I mean, I envisioned a life with her, you know, and for those of your audience who know about us, or and also, you know, you probably know this, but like for those of your audience who don't know this, we had kind of almost created a brand out of our relationship here in Dallas. And everyone who we were involved with and who, you know, who was following our journey and a part of like the things that we were doing in town knew Zach and Courtney, right? And didn't know necessarily the two apart. And we got to a point where neither did we, you know? And so anyway, it took over a big part of our life. And, you know, the way that I think about it and the way that I think that most people should think about it, or even just to define a relationship, is that it's two individuals. A relationship is two individuals, and a relationship is meant to benefit two individuals. And it kind of goes back to your point where it's like, if the relationship isn't benefiting those two individuals as individuals, that's when it becomes potentially dangerous. And that's when it becomes, you know, people start to lose themselves. People start to lose sight of like who they are and what their hopes and dreams are, and what, you know, what their wants and needs are, and it becomes more about the relationship. And I think that that's what happens a lot of times with guys. And you know, I see it a lot with girls too. I think it's just people, they, you know, you start to put the priority of the relationship being a thing, an entity. And especially for us, it became like our business was based around it. Our friends were based around it. Almost all of our social life was. And it became a thing where it was like the relationship was so much more important, or the couple, the entity of Zach and Courtney was a thing that we were getting anxiety about losing, you know, I think even individually. And so I was like, I don't want to think about the fact that potentially, the fact that you don't do this or like this or feel this way or want this out of life or want these experiences, those things aren't necessarily important, even though those are potentially the most important things. But we were like setting them aside because we didn't want to lose what we thought we had created or what we thought was more important, and those things became more important than us as individuals. And we started to set ourselves aside, and like, that's not, I think what happened was we started to have conversations and it was like, wait a minute, like, is this really what I want out of life? Where this is going, and you just have to be, I think both of us are so ambitious. Both of us are so adventurous. Both of us are so passionate and lustful for life that we're neither of us are willing to compromise on the things that we really, really want out of life. And we we were starting to compromise, both of us. And like, I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is changing who they are for someone else. And that's, if you want to do that, like, that's cool. That's not what the fuck I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to change me, and I'm not trying to change her. And we started doing that, and we started realizing, like, wait a minute, what's really more important here? And the opportunities for us to succeed as individuals became like that. We felt like, oh, maybe they're not as big as if we're a couple. We've built this brand, we've built this business, we've built a brand out of our relationship. And maybe my success is starting to become anchored on your success. So I need to like make sure this works and make those compromises that I wasn't willing to make before. So anyway, that's kind of what happened. And
it's an identity thing too.
Yeah.
Like you said, you speak about the brand. Most people, when they enter a relationship, they take on the personality of the relationship. And then when it's kind of run its course a bit, you kind of stay in it longer than you're supposed to, because you don't know what it's like. You can't remember what it was like before that person. So, that's why a lot of people tend to kind of stay in there. It's, I salute both of you guys for at least acknowledging that, right? Because my thing is, if I'm not happy, I'm no good to the person I'm with.
100%.
Period. It's not going to work. And so for you guys to kind of realize that, take a step back, and who knows what happens in the future, but
for sure,
you at least did it in a mature way, especially again, you guys having businesses together and starting things together as a brand. Right. That I salute you guys for doing that. And it's very, very mature, man. It's very mature.
I appreciate that. It's been the hardest thing I've ever done. We're in a really good place now. And I mean, like, I've started dating. So that's a whole other thing that's been weird and interesting.
Is it weird? I was just, you took the word right out of my mouth. Well, I was just going to say, is it weird? Because I can tell you, brother, the dating scene is, especially if you've been out the game for about, you said 3 years or so, bro, coming back to it, it's like, I'm sure you're like, what the fuck is going on here? What is this?
Well, and you said adult several times, like we were making adult decisions, and like I'm 30 years old now. But I feel like in the relationship, I feel like I've been 30 for a while when I get out of and I start dating. And man, people just, and this goes for, I'm sure, guys and girls, because I hear the girls that I've dated, like, in the past few months, I should say, gone on dates with and like hung out with, I hear them tell stories about guys that they,
mm-hmm.
you know, and then also the way that they interact. It's just like, can we just be adults here? Can you just fucking communicate with me?
Mm-hmm.
Can you just like
put the phone down for 2 minutes?
Yeah, put the phone down for 2 minutes, but also like be real
mm-hmm.
and be communicative and be like, just be adults. You know, adults are just kids sometimes. I'm just like, you know, and things get awkward
mm-hmm.
and it's like, can I talk about that? Can I not talk about that? Can I say this? Can I say that? Can we talk about the fact, you know, can we just
People can't communicate.
Yeah,
man.
it's really fucking
weird. Because everything is played out through social media. Everything
mm-hmm.
is, you know, people can create a personality for themselves there, but then when you see them in real life and when you're sitting down with them, they don't have anything to say. You know, they don't have anything to say. They don't have anything going on. It's like, and that's, you see, one of my secrets, it's not a secret anymore, but I kid you not, I always do, if I'm interested in a woman, I always find a way to be like, you know, are you on Instagram?
Right.
Are you on Facebook?
Right.
But mostly Instagram, because see, the difference is Facebook, people can just kind of write stuff.
Right.
Never show pictures, never nothing. They could just random thoughts, kind of like Twitter. They're somewhat similar. They could just random thoughts. But the thing with Instagram is that it's about photos for the most part.
Visual
and
content.
so it's visual.
Yeah.
And then people can write captions and things
mm-hmm,
like that.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I feel like you get the best of both worlds. You get the words.
I agree.
And you get the photos to see, like, what is this person's environment like? What do they like to do? But I kid you not, man, you'll go on somebody's profile and people don't realize this. It tells a lot about you.
Right.
Because when you go on there and you start to see, you know, and you just got to scroll down a little further. You just go a little deeper. It'll be there. There'll be some red flags. There'll be something that pops up that have you like,
Yeah.
Because people don't realize how much stuff that they put out there. They don't really think, right? And so I always do. It never fails, man. I'm like, what's your Instagram? Okay. And I'm just going, yep, nope. I'll
not
pass.
Gonna happen.
I'll be like, I'll pass. I'll be like, I'll pass, because you gotta understand, it takes a while to get to know someone, right? A long time.
Yeah. So that's interesting, because the way that I think about it is, I'm obviously gonna look, you know, just do a little research, like I do about everything.
Gotta vet.
Yeah, gotta vet. Yeah, and vetting is important if you really value your own time. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to go do some bullshit with a bullshit person, and you know, but I don't think that I would start even talking to somebody if I thought that in the beginning. But what's interesting about what you said is the way that I think about it is I'm interested in the kind of like the juxtaposition of what's on social and what's real. And I mean, I'm guilty of that too. I think we all are. There's this like a bit of a inevitable facade that comes with what am I putting out there, which is why a lot of times my posts are long form. Like I like to, because I really want to be as real as possible. So interestingly enough, one of the girls that I've dated, with a bit more effort than most, isn't on social media at all.
That's a really good sign. When they say that, I'm 1 second I'm a little nervous, but then I'm like, that we might be onto something here.
Right, we're definitely onto something. You know, but we're friends. We're more friends now. I went to Japan a couple months ago, and before I went to Japan, we were seeing each other like all the time. And then I went, and there was a little bit of distance there. Then we had a conversation. When I got back, I was like, you know what? Hey, what's going on? In more words than that, but you know, it was kind of like you just got out of a relationship. I just got out of a relationship. Like, let's be friends.
Take it slow.
Yeah.
Right.
And I thought that was really mature. And at first I was like, it kind of sucks, you know, but like, the more that I thought about, and even going into the whole thing, I knew I was like, there's so many, first of all, just right off the bat, there's so many other fucking things that I need to be focused on right now than chasing tail. I am constantly concerned with deep, meaningful connections, and I'm never looking for just that, like, hey, I'm out with my friends, like, you up, you know, like into a Friday night. I'm not really concerned about that. But you know, what the reason that I brought her up is we were talking a little bit about social, and the fact that like she's not on it at all, first of all, was like, kind of like you said, like, is that a red flag? And then, like, you know, I told you I was gonna open up to your followers and open up to your audience, but like, I just got out of a relationship with a person who that's literally their whole fucking life. That's their whole MO. There's no experience unless it's on social
media.
Right. So one of the very first things that we did, our first date, this other girl, our first date was Kendrick Lamar concert.
Hey, Kendrick. You watch Power? Real quick. No? Oh, man. Because he was on, you bring him up, he was on an episode recently. He killed it. Go ahead, though.
Damn. I should. I know that I should watch that show. But it was just so... First of all, that's my favorite artist. So I'm really wary of bringing someone into that experience of mine when I know that that's meant to be a memory, and the last thing that I want of that memory is for it to be like this chick that I used to date, or like this, you know, like whatever, tainted, because I've done that before. Excuse me. I go to South by Southwest every year, and like there were a couple of times where I was like, yo, like, let's go to South by, and I'll see this like insane show, this amazing show that should be ingrained in my memory as just an amazing show, but then it's tainted by like, you know, that one thing that happened, or like that didn't happen, or it's tainted, right? So I was really concerned about that. But one thing that was like, you know what? I'm going to take her, and this is going to be our first real date. We had hung out several times, and we went to dinner, and we were a little bit late to the show because like we just kept talking and kept vibing.
Was she a fan of Kendrick though?
Yeah.
Okay.
She was super excited for the show.
Okay.
So I hit her up, you know, let's go to Kendrick. We had already had plans to hang out that night. I was like, this is what we're, you know. So, but what sold me on I'm going to take her, even though I'm really wary of that, was this is going to be the first time in so long that I get to experience the show, just to experience the show. And I wanted to know what that's like, because like for years, and even before my ex-girlfriend, for years, it's only ever been about who's going to see that I saw this, and what is it that they're going to see, and I have to get the perfect this and that. And like, I was like, holy shit, this is a perfect opportunity for me to go experience one of my favorite artists in the whole world, potentially my favorite artist, and just be in that moment and just be encapsulated by the experiences. So that is really attractive to me. And
that's important too, man.
Yeah.
Because whoever you're with, or whoever you're around, it's just much easier when it's easy. You know, when you don't have to break down barriers, when you don't have to feel like you're compromising, right? Because you hear that word a lot, right? Like compromise. Oh, you gotta be willing to compromise. I'm not. You know, like to what degree?
Right.
You know, there are things that, you know, but to what degree? You know, at some point, There are things that make you happy, and it's better if the other person enjoys that as well. Both you guys can be happy and vice versa.
Yeah.
Everybody needs their space, obviously.
Right.
But I think it's funny because you'll see a lot of people today, they'll be in relationships, and it's like they're two different people who
For
and
sure.
you're just like, so where do you guys even meet
Yeah.
in the middle? You know,
Right.
you're wondering like, where do you meet in the middle? Because
Yeah.
you like this, she doesn't like that. She
Right.
likes this, you don't like that. It's like, so then but then you realize that a lot of it is just the societal pressure of, I
Compromising.
have to be, this is what it's supposed to
Right.
be like. This
Right.
is what people are telling you. Like, no, you're supposed to have arguments. That means she loves you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, what? Like,
That
what do
is
you
some
mean?
bullshit
like,
right there.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the image in their minds. Is like, okay, that's what they consider to be a normal relationship.
Right.
When in fact, it's like, it's the furthest from the truth. It shouldn't be. I would tell people, love is relationships in general are not. They're not easy. They're not hard either.
Right.
Like they're very simple, complex in
I
a degree,
agree.
but they're very simple.
I agree.
When you break it
so
down.
much, because first of all, the simplicity is it's two people, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's two individuals that need to be individuals, and the relationship has to benefit them as individuals. I think most people, like I said, they get involved in the relationship, and there's like that the one thing that I can think about to describe it is like cocaine, honestly, because
It is. Didn't they do like a science where it's like love?
I don't know, but
love gives you the same dopamine, the same reaction as cocaine,
Wow,
as sugar.
that makes sense.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but what I've experienced was, and the analogy here is like that very first time you're constantly chasing that because it's so incredible. It's
You want to get that high.
yeah, that first one, and then it never gets as good. And the only reason that this analogy works here is that sometimes people that don't necessarily connect like that forever or for long periods of time, their mind has been changed by that experience. It was so incredible, and they can't we're constantly trying to get back to there, right? And we're fighting this really difficult uphill battle that's potentially completely useless because we remember and we can't unremember, and our individuality is now tainted because we're constantly trying to get back to that initial high. So, my life definitely at this point is not all about dating. I've really stopped. I talked to one girl really, and I think that I've wanted to make the decision to just be like, I'm gonna just not talk or date or anything to anybody.
Take some time for yourself.
Yeah.
Focus on your business, and we're going to talk about some of those other things. Conscious move, smart move, in my opinion. But
I appreciate that. But what I'll say is, on that, is that there is something about, what I was just saying is that I'm experiencing that right now. Is that it's kind of hard not to talk to her because things are so easy. We click really well, even when we're not being physical or romantic. Like we're hanging out, like we're constantly laughing. She's just a really cool girl. But we've both decided no pressure. We don't want to put any pressure on each other. We want to be friends. So that's where we're, and I wanted to talk to you. This brought up a really interesting thing in my mind that I've been talking to some of my friends about, that I wanted to talk to you about, was the idea of celibacy. Like purposeful not just I can't get laid for months at a time, but purposeful, meaningful, deliberate, long-term celibacy. It's really fucking hard, by the way. Holy shit. But it is because it's just I'm a grown man, and another thing for me is that I didn't grow up a very attractive person. All through My childhood up until most of college, I was a pretty unattractive person. And so psychologically for me, it's really hard to be someone who people are attracted to and to not be like,
did you feel like you got some catching up to do?
This is amazing. Yeah, I feel like I've got catching up to do, like some serious catching up, but also like there's just it is this constant like, oh wow, I can do this now, or how could I potentially? It's like if you got out of a long-term prison sentence and like you try to immediately not eat unhealthy foods or not eat foods that you really want to eat because you're like, for the longest time I was unable to experience this. Now I'm able to experience it, especially like being out of a long-term relationship. And I can just be whoever I want and do whatever I want. It's really hard, but the point there would be to focus completely and 100% on becoming the best version of myself that I can. Mm-hmm. And one thing that my mom has always said to me is, you want to be somebody who somebody wants to take seriously, you know? And thinking about would I date me right now, you know, and that's not necessarily the whole point of it, but you know, that's a big part of it, because being in love is really important to me. You know, it's
right. I mean, there's a saying that I'll never forget. This pastor said a long time ago, is that the right woman can push you closer to your destiny. Right. You know, and so it's important for us to make those right choices. Right. You know, because it can come back to haunt you.
Yeah, and what's tough is like also me being very one of my biggest beliefs is that I don't need anyone else for me anyway. I want to push myself to my destiny on my own individually. And so the idea of like chasing that right woman and potentially finding a lot of the wrong ones just doesn't seem very attractive to me. I think right now for me, it's like I just want to hang out with people. I want to be around people. I really like being around beautiful girls. So like that's kind of the way, I mean, full transparency, that's just kind of the way it goes. I've also, and we can get into this a little bit too, this brings up something totally different, but I've spent the last year or so of my life cutting out almost everyone.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna talk about that, man, because that's that's something that everyone should do. I call that getting lean.
Yeah, no, that's totally, that's a really good way to put it. I mean, I've broken up with some of my absolute best friends because I am self-aware and totally cool with saying it and believing it and speaking it out. I'm on a different trajectory than most people. I want more out of life than most people. It's easy. I just fucking look around and see how much people want out of life just by interacting, and I see like nope, 9 out of 10, maybe 99 out of 100 are completely fine with being complacent. And so when you're not okay with being complacent, and then the people around you that you've known, or you become unokay with being complacent at some point in your life, and the people around you stay, and you in your mind expect something from them, some sort of change, or the vice versa, they don't expect some sort of change and you change, man, it can just totally just send your vibes down. And I'm like really concerned with the vibes. Just And that goes into like potentially like trying to not date, is because
you want to focus on.
I want to focus on the vibes, man. And the vibes have to, I surround myself with, at this point in my life, outside of purely business relationships, my mom.
I was thinking he was going to say a number of 5, 6 people.
Yeah, maybe 4, maybe 5. But like that I pursue spending time with, and I'm only concerned with deep, meaningful relationships with those people. And so when I can see that that's not happening, I start to shut off a little bit. Now, do I want to be social and like live my life? Yeah, of course. And do I want to hang out with people? Yes. But like what happened was I spent a lot of time preparing myself to get rid of people in my life, and then I did it, and then Courtney and I split up, and it was like, oh,
it's like, damn, I kind of need a few of those people.
Like
I could use, I could
can't.
use a few people.
Yeah,
right.
I was at a point where I couldn't, because I had made I had drawn some very clear lines in the sand.
You started to distance yourself slowly.
And then
you to
also
come
was
back to it real
explicit.
quick. Oh, okay.
I was explicit in some of it. I mean, some of it, I was just like, okay, but
if it was 5 phone calls a week, now it's down to 3, and 2, then 1.
Exactly. Then like, so then Courtney and I split up, and it was like, I'm fucking lonely. So I sought that in girls, I sought that in, because I wasn't willing to just go get a bullshit friend, somebody, because I just get, I don't even really know what it is, but I don't know if annoyed is the right word. Like, I love everyone and I try to really respect everyone and like where they're at. I just know what I want to be experiencing. And most of the time, being alone in my own thoughts is potentially more interesting, or reading a book, or, listening to a podcast, or exercising, or working really hard. And that's really what I've only been doing for the past like 4 to 6, 8 weeks, is more stimulating. It's more, it feeds my soul more so than like being out or, doing
doing meaningless things. Cause I always tell people that I seek meaningful conversations, and it don't matter who that's with.
Right.
You might stop to talk to somebody on the street, or maybe you're at a Barnes and Noble or Starbucks and somebody next to you, you start talking, but the conversation is meaningful and you don't know that person from a hole in the wall.
Right.
But it's like they bring something out. And I feel like the people closest to you, you should be able to have those meaningful conversations. It's not empty, empty conversations, empty content. I try not to put out empty content or empty vibes. It's like, I'll make it very clear that, look, if I'm going to put my effort, if I'm going to invest in you, I want you to be able to invest in me as well. And vice versa. And so most people don't see it that way. You'll invest in others, but they don't invest back. Yeah. And once you realize that, it's like, look, well, I can't keep investing in you. I can't keep investing time, effort, energy, information, you know what I mean? Which is key, right? You got to get around people who are willing to do the same things for you. There's a saying, right? You're the sum of they say the 5 people that you speak to the most. Right. I say 5 people may be too much, at times, right? Because I'm saying, hey, if you're lucky enough to have 5 people that you can really, really talk to, you're in a good situation. Yeah, most people don't. Right, exactly. So 5 might be a bit overkill. But like, I'll give you an example. Today, I have a group chat in my cell phone text, and one of my friends, bright and early, sent the video out, and it's him on New York 1 television.
Wow.
And he's talking about a particular situation that's going on in New York. Because my audience knows I'm from New York, so
Right.
a lot of my, if my closest friends are going to be people that's still in New York.
Of course.
And so, he sent out a video to us, and it's him on TV,
Wow.
and he's talking about a situation going on with like Uber and Lyft. And
Okay.
I think there's something going on with like a cap
Yeah.
that they're trying to do, which I wasn't really, because I don't really take it, so
Sure.
I'm not really abreast of what's going on with it. But
Yeah.
he was there, he was talking, he was bringing up the notion that a lot of kids, a lot of people do rely on this form of transportation. Remember, this is New York, this is not Dallas.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Where
Yeah.
people, for the most part, you need a car.
Yeah.
Out there is different. You got to be able to get around, and so people, they use that there as a resource
Absolutely.
as well. And he sent that out, and we do things like that in the chat where it's meant to motivate each other to
Yeah.
do things, and we
Yeah.
always keep each other, even if we don't chat all the time.
Yep.
It's like when we do chat,
Yep.
it's like we never left off.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
So I have a group chat. It's my brother, and this is a really great example of exactly what I was just telling you that I've done. My two brothers, cousin, and two really close childhood friends of all of us. I grew up in a small town in Texas, and so we all know each other really well. We've all been close for 10, 15 years. But when I say I'm on a different trajectory than 9 out of 10 people, I also consider most of my family in that 9 people, unfortunately. I love my brothers to death, but we're just I'm just cut from a different cloth as them. And I'm not the same. Another thing is I've felt like an outcast in my own family my entire life. So I'm really used to being alone. I'm really used to not being able to share, not being able to vibe with even the people closest to me. So that particular group chat, and really honestly, I just need to leave it. But like, it's every day. It's all the time. Just meaningless fucking memes. And like, there's a guy on there who's like, just really just a toxic individual. He's been toxic my whole life. And, I wonder, it's funny because I guess if I share this, most of them will see it. But like, I've told most of them individually that like my purpose right now is to invest all of my own emotional energy into me, into my progress. And here's what I've said to people. When I'm emotionally available for relationships outside of business, myself and my mother, I'll let you know. Mm-hmm. But right now, I'm not, This one individual has sent me several happy birthday texts since my birthday, and then been like, yo, what's going on? And that's basically what I said. As soon as I'm emotionally available for relationships outside of purely business, myself and my mother, I'll let you know. And, that outside of myself could potentially incorporate, a dating type, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I think being alone and
it's very important, bro.
Yeah.
I can tell you that right off the bat. It's
and
very
for
important.
me, learning how to be alone again. Mm-hmm. Because what happened was, for the 4 years leading up to my relationship with Courtney, I was like really alone. I lived with people, roommates and stuff like that, but like, I think it's just a symptom of I've always been different. Mm-hmm. And I've never really been able to genuinely connect with most people. Mm-hmm. That I just and sometimes it sucked. Sometimes it does suck. Sometimes it's like, fuck, what is it about me that I can't be the same as everyone else, and I can't just have a ton of friends. So like, girls that I've talked to, and like this one in individual in particular, like that we've become friends, she's got a ton of shit going on socially and I don't. And so it's like, oh, that's kind of weird. Should I feel some way about that? Like, should I be anxious that like she's going to not be attracted to me because I don't have a ton of social stuff going on, But I remember, like, you've designed this. This is by design and it's purposeful and you need to be okay with that. Mm-hmm. And I just celebrated my 30th birthday like 3 weeks ago. And something really amazing happened on my birthday, which was not much. And what happened that was amazing during that, like, not much, was that I was completely okay with it. And I was happy. And I experienced this transcendent feeling. I was out with my boys, which is two. Actually, it's my really, really close friend and new business partner and his best friend that I've hung out with like 5 or 6 times. And something happened to me that night. We were in Deep Ellum, and what happened was I experienced this like wave of happiness in the fact that I was like, okay, not doing things, not doing something really big and special,
going over the top, or what you doing for your birthday,
right? And
when you give them a simple answer, they're like, oh
yeah, what are you doing like for your 30th birthday? Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm going to New York, or I'm going to Fiji, mm-hmm. I'm going to Hawaii, or whatever the fuck, or I'm renting out this club in downtown with bottle service and mm-hmm. like all that shit. And like, yeah, I could do that. But I'm not concerned. That doesn't, first of all, I wouldn't have any friends show up. That's the first part. It's going to
be you in an empty room.
Oh man. It would be me with a bottle service and literally just like an empty fucking booth. And but like, honestly, like, in the past I've gotten really bad anxiety. What am I doing with my life? Mm-hmm. Where like, why am I not having all these celebrations and whatever? And like, being self-aware and really loving myself, it takes like being okay with the fact that like you're really different, and I don't value meaningless relationships, and meaningless relationships don't take much time, and so you can have a lot more of them. Mm-hmm. So when you don't value meaningful relationships and you value can we go out, can we have a big celebration, can we do this, can we do that, you can have a fuckload of those. So you can send a text, hey, what are you doing? We'll get her, let's all go out, and before you know it, you got 35 people out. And what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Some of the, like, also full disclosure, like, not full disclosure, but another thing about me is that I also value those types of things, those like carefree, mm-hmm. Just experience life just to experience life. We don't necessarily have to be whatever. We're just like being around other humans and having a really good time and like doing human things, dancing, drinking, partying, fucking, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, all of those things are important to me too, but you have to make a decision on like, what do I truly genuinely want out of life? Mm-hmm. Can I go invest in having a lot of meaningful relationships? Yes. Do they bring my vibes down? Yeah. Am I willing to do that at this point in my life? No. So I think that's probably pretty unattractive to most girls. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most because most people want action. They want to feel like they want to feel that high all the time. And the real reason why that's the case is because outside of that, they're miserable at work.
Yeah.
They're miserable at home.
Yep.
They're miserable in the things that matter. So they have to constantly put distractions in front of them. Like I've learned as I got older, like I find peace in peace. I find acceptance in the mundane things.
Right.
Because I understand that to most successful people to get where they are, they do the same things religiously. Whether it's if you're a basketball player, you know, you're Kobe Bryant, you're Michael Jordan, they talk about the hours and hours of preparation, where most people after like a week, they're like, man, I ain't doing this no more.
Right.
You know, and they're comfortable understanding that these are things that they have to do to get to where they want. And so a lot of people just want a lot of action. They need a lot of, you know, I can't be alone for 5 minutes. You know, I got to constantly have people around me, constantly be in the mix. That it's not until you remove yourself from that you really start to find out, like, if you can't be at peace with you, if you can't find yourself or know who you are, then you're going to always be looking for distractions. And that's going to come in the form of different things. Meaningless relationships, you know, the need of just always having to have a female around you, you know, just drugs, alcohol, etc. Just, you know, things that constantly remove you away from the issue, that you just don't know how to live a meaningful life on your own. Yeah.
And look, for me, as I've gotten older, what I've realized, and one of my biggest realizations is my most valuable resource is time. And it is limited. You know, there's this patience versus speed kind of discussion that we can have, and I believe that like you have to practice both simultaneously. You have to be extremely patient with the fact that like you said, for you to be good at something and for you to be successful doing something, it takes, you know, I mean, there's the old saying, 10,000 hours. And most people quit after 10 or less, right? But then at the same time, it's like, how many, if it takes 10,000 hours, like break it down, how many of those hours can we fit into 24, or how many days can we break 10,000 hours into? The less days that it takes, the quicker you're going to get to where you're trying to go. It still takes patience to complete the 10,000 hours, but can you complete the 10,000 hours in 1 year? Can you complete the 10,000 hours in 6 months? Or is it because you value going out or Netflix or video games or whatever it is that's not that 10,000 hours doing that one thing? Like, do you cover that up or waste it? You know, like resources, you have to invest. Resources are, you know, you invest resources to get more back.
Right. Absolutely.
So I'm going to scratch my ear. Sorry about that. So you have a certain amount of time where you have a goal or something, and most people are just so willing to compromise their goals, even from childhood, that they're okay wasting all of their fucking time. I'm just not. And like, what happened to Courtney and me was that we realized we were wasting time trying to fix the relationship, trying to mold ourselves into the relationship or into the other person. And neither of us were willing to invest that much time. There's just so much shit to be done. There's so much shit to be done to get to where we want to be, and to do the things that we both strongly believe the world needs us for. You know, we have a purpose. And, you know, I don't know. I'm like, I sound like I've got it all figured out. I still struggle with that idea because sometimes I get anxiety being alone, you know, and, you know, I've also invested a lot of time in my physical fitness and in my like health. And then, you know, sometimes I think like, what's it for?
Well, let's talk about that, because I've seen some of the things that the transformation and some of the things that you've been putting out there on social media. You working out,
yeah.
Because obviously this is post relationship, and now you're getting back to yourself. Yeah. Let's talk about that. What is the businesses or the direction that you're heading in right now? What does that entail? Talk about that.
So I started a new agency with my business partner, Jason. I was with him this morning talking about, some proposals and clients, and we've got some just absolutely insane stuff in the works. And there was, I'm extremely liberated being on my own. Courtney and I, in the very beginning, we were like, holy shit, like we can do some really cool shit together. Both of us have been imagining and looking for the second half to our power couple for a while. And we saw that like we wanted some similar things, and that we had some similar talents and similar interests in doing things that were lucrative. And so we just like went all in really early on the relationship and the business. And we never stopped to take a second to be like, do we really love this? We were just like, holy shit, this is amazing. So now that I've been through that, and we just took on a ton of work that we weren't necessarily, it wasn't perfect for us. I've stepped away from that, and there's just something about refocusing, zooming out and refocusing. There's something about freshness and newness, and potentially that whole idea of freshness and newness is probably why I seek talking to girls, because there's something fresh and new about
new.
Right. So
it's like getting that new car smell.
Right. And that's why I'm like, I don't have one right now, but like, that's why I'm addicted to fresh haircuts like every other week, because it just feels so fresh. So, Jason and I are both extremely ambitious. At this point, he's my best friend, and we've only really known each other a year and a half, but he was one of those people that as time went on, I could see like every conversation that we have is like extremely deep, extremely meaningful. We want the same things out of life. He's a lot younger than me, but like that doesn't matter. Like his experience in life doesn't matter near as much as like he's ambitious as fuck and he wants to do big shit. And we can think about how to do big shit together, and we can be self-aware enough to be like, what are you good at? What am I good at? Let's attack that. So he's a videographer. He does like he had an agency before this, and so we basically just joined forces. And so
what type of content then are you looking at of putting out there then?
So I think it'll still be like contract based work. Like we take on clients and do their stuff for them.
Like social media or?
Yeah. So it'll, the idea would be to be a full scale production agency.
Okay. And,
the social media, business analytics, potentially written content, advertising, budget management, all of those things will fall on me, because those are the things that I'm good at, and that like I'm weird, man. Like instead of watching things or consuming content, I consume content about content. It's weird. Like I'm sure you're very similar in that. Like I like a lot of the blogs that I read, the email newsletters that I sign up for, the podcasts that I listen to, the brands that I follow are all about like content. I'm just a nerd about words, I think, really, and I'm a nerd about like consumerism and consumer psychology. Like all of those things are really interesting to me. So that's what falls on me. He's a creative eye, and he's got an insane ability to capture visual content. And so we just work really well together, and I think we want the same types of clients. You know, with Courtney and me, we were trying to build this agency that was like, and by the way, we still have projects together. We still have clients. We still, work together, and so I have both of them. The Harvest Hands is really focused on vegan clients, and the Harvest Hands is really focused on sustainability, eco-friendly, green space.
And the Harvest Hands is the one you have with you and Courtney, because I've seen you promote that in the past. Okay.
Yeah. Colorcast, which is the new agency, we are focused on lifestyle and individuals and experiential brands. So we take on and pitch to, and it's only really been a month. But the clients that we do have and the clients that we're going after are here in Dallas, and the whole idea is Dallas and experience. So that could be hotels, that could be nightlife, that could potentially be restaurants, and that could be fashion, that could be stores, rather than him joining the Harvest Hands or something like that. Start something new from scratch. We did end up using his name, start from scratch, because that allowed me to like really rebrand myself individually, and like, what is it that I really want to work on? What really am I passionate about? I'm no longer like super passionate about talking about and selling veganism anymore. Like it bores me at this point. And like, I think it bores me because of vegans.
Let me ask you this: Have you gotten pushback from that at all? 'Cause I don't know if I'm the first. I'm sure you've said this in other contexts before,
right,
around people. But have you gotten any pushback, or you just don't really put it out there anyway? And I'm just curious how people respond to that, because they're so attached. Like that would. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, but that's the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like what you're talking about is...
heads, I can hear the heads explode when you say that. That's why I'm like, are you getting negative feedback?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to speak...
And are you prepared for that? Because you might not see it now, but are you prepared for
I am definitely prepared for that. I also don't give a shit. So, there's both of those things. It's not going to make or break me. There's so much more to me. And here's the depth of it. The depth of it is that veganism is not my spirituality. My spirituality is based on love and compassion. Veganism is an extension of that, right? So like, there is so much about, and here it is in a nutshell, there is so much about the vegan
culture
collective, of or the like almost like cult, the animal rights movement, that is neither loving nor compassionate.
Ironic, right?
It is extremely ironic. And I'm not willing to set that part of me aside, because that's why I'm vegan. So have I gotten pushback? I haven't, because I don't necessarily talk about it, because I don't want to have those conversations. I have way too much shit to do besides to just talk about like, why are you not talking about animals anymore? And the other thing is, I'm a way more impactful for animals when I stop talking about them.
No, I'm like, dude, I'm laughing because I totally agree. You don't understand the shit that I get sometimes.
Oh, I know
it's
you
like,
get it because like I can.
It's like,
there's
it's
just
like,
so
bro,
much more.
Yeah, and I try to tell people that, listen, you know, you could be vegan and still be a terrible person.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
right.
You gotta,
and you can still be awesome and not be vegan.
Exactly. So it's just, I tell people they lose sight of individuals, right? And understand that when you're dealing with people,
right,
it is not as simple as trying to guilt them to do things.
Yes.
You have to look at yourself. Like,
yes.
This is the thing that just annoys me, because it's like, I always tell people, like, just start with yourself.
Yep.
You know, especially those people who weren't born vegan. It's like, start with yourself, which is the majority.
Everyone,
right?
Basically, yeah.
It's like, start with yourself.
Yeah.
Like, did somebody just come and just knock you over the head and just told you, look, you're going to do this? Could they have done that? No. You had to get to a certain point. And prior to you getting to that point, you had certain beliefs you were able to change.
Right.
So other people have to go through their journey as well. Mm-hmm. Their journey might be 60 years.
Right.
They might realize it at 65.
Right.
That, you know what? I need to be vegan. Damn, doesn't mean that they was a shit person for the previous 64.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? Like, we don't. It's like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah. And so like so another factor of it is that really important piece that I think we've both hinted at, and that I said, was that I'm more impactful this way anyway. Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing, like, people don't want to be around people that they don't like to be around. Mm. And most people don't like to be around people who are fucking preachy and pushy and like judging. That turns everyone off, right? And so I'm, as a kind of like a goal, right? Because I still am concerned with saving as many animals as possible. I still am concerned with creating a life and a brand and a business that impacts that bottom line of love and compassion for everything and everyone and all life. Mm-hmm. If I'm only around vegans, who am I impacting? If my content or my personality or my social life or my interactions or whatever is only associated with vegans who believe the same thing as me, my impact is extremely low. Mm-hmm. And in order for you to be fun to hang out with around people who aren't vegans, you can't talk about fucking vegans or veganism. And you can't ask people to do vegan things.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So, you know, and that has really mostly recently translated into who I've dated, right? And this one girl that I've, you know, talked to, I've even mentioned her already. We eat vegan food. I cook for her, but like, I've literally not once mentioned why I'm vegan, and she fucking eats vegan food all the time.
And she's not vegan.
No. Mm-hmm. I don't want her to be. Mm-hmm. I'm like, it's so cool that she's not, because we don't have to fucking talk about that shit all the time anymore. And
I feel you, man.
It is really ironic.
It does get frustrating.
It gets so frustrating because people are so I don't know if people are so elitist about it, right? And you know, it might sound contradictory because of what I said about cutting most people out of my life, but like, that's on a deep spiritual, like, who I surround myself with in order to be successful. But like, just the people that like interacting, you know, and being just having kind of those menial relationships. When I do have them, I'm not concerned with like with who they are or what they do and judging them as what their character is. And the other part of that is just being a cool motherfucker that people like to hang out with goes so much farther.
I agree.
Right? Being funny, being outgoing, being, you know, not necessarily being not always being the life of a party, but sometimes being the life of the party, being someone who some people could be like, oh, he's like, that's really cool. I've never, whatever. Like, this person is a cool person. I want to spend my time with them. And then that opens up the door to conversations.
Right. And the proof is there in when we look at celebrities.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it, I don't care with nobody. I always tell people, I said, listen, if Kylie Jenner decided today that she was going to make a post that says, I'm vegan, and I think you might want to consider doing it, she would turn more kids and more people vegan than anything me and you could do.
For a lifetime.
Period. In 1 minute,
Both of
she
our
could
lifetimes.
do that.
Yeah.
And why?
Or even if she just like posted a plate of food and it said hashtag vegan.
Oh, yeah. That's it. And
Millions
as much
of
as people
animals
don't
saved.
like to admit it, I'm like, listen, the reason is because the influence, the fact that people like them first and foremost, which is why they're able to follow them in the things that they say. That's what influence is.
That's
people have to like
what
you
influence is.
in order to get influence.
And if people don't like you,
you don't have no influence.
Zero influence.
So how do you expect to?
It seems so simple. And just there is like what vegans have done to themselves is create stigma and a taboo of I don't really like being around vegans. So I have to kind of like work to break that down, like sometimes I'm like I'm a closet vegan, because I don't want it to come out first. Right? I want people to like me for who I am and then realize, oh, there's something to this when it comes out that I'm vegan, right? I remember when I first started texting or even potentially when I first start talking to a girl, like I don't ever talk about it. It just or a new friend, and like if I have a best friend and they know this much about me, how important this is to me, how important my spirituality is to me, and like not compromising, because essentially being vegan is just not compromising my spirituality, my morals. Like that's really all it is, very simply put.
Right.
They eat meat in front of me and I don't even think about it. Right? Because my thing is, I just want to love this person no matter what. And I want them to love me, and everyone makes mistakes. And, if you hang around me long enough, you realize like eating meat is a mistake.
It never fails, man. I've seen it. I've had friends, family, people who just all of a sudden coming around, and I say you just have to be an example and let people find their way, just provide the information and let people make the decision. It's always better when it's like the Most High. He gives you choice. That's the greatest gift. It's like people say, why can't he make? He couldn't make you do it, but what's the fun? Like, I'd rather you, like, he doesn't want to make you love him. He wants you to love him willingly. So it's like everything that you do in life, in order for it to be effective and true, it has to really come from something that you want to do, not because I put a gun, not because it's what I like and so you're going to do it because of me. No. Do it because it's what you want to do, because that's what's going to last. Yeah,
I had a guy to that exact same point, and I've heard people talk about this. Hey, like I see that you are really into fitness and like you've transformed a lot, blah, blah, blah. What's the secret to like just getting in the gym every day? And there is no secret. You just have to want it worse than whatever you want to not do it. And what's the secret to being really disciplined in your diet? You have to want to not eat the French fries more than you want to eat the French fries. And it's because, like you said, people don't do things that they don't like to do. Right? So when, people don't hang out with people they don't want to hang out with. And if somebody that they don't want to hang out with eats vegan food, they probably don't want to eat vegan food. And like for me, that's the biggest one of the biggest milestones is just start eating vegan food. Try it, see what happens. It's not that bad. Oh wow, it's really fucking delicious. So, but you gotta want that first. So that's why I've stopped talking about it. I want my message to be of one simple thing, and that's self-love. Because once self-love happens, your heart completely opens, and goodness flows in and goodness flows out. And that it's an impossibility for that to take place if you don't love yourself unconditionally. And for me, like, fitness has just been just loving myself and doing the right thing that I know that I need to do for myself. And the other thing about it is, especially fitness, is proving to myself that I can do things that I'm not sure that I can do. And that plays into my life as an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship is simply being willing to do things that you're not sure that you can do. Another way to put it is knowing that you can do something that you've never done before, and being really confident in that, and saying, I'm going to go all in on this. I've never done it. Like, that is the seed of entrepreneurship. That is that I've found so far, because I haven't necessarily started a business doing something that I'm super successful at. Even if you're a fitness, for example, entrepreneur, you are really good at fitness, but are you really good at getting clients? Are you really good at managing books? Are you really good at, all of the things that go into owning a business, managing people, managing money, getting investment, selling a product? And there is another side of entrepreneurship where it's like, I'm starting a new business and I do know all of those things, but you first have to be willing to try and fail. And that's what fitness is all about. Failure. Strength comes in failure.
It's pushing yourself to failure.
Right. And the growth happens when you fail. And it's that the parallels between fitness and entrepreneurship are just striking.
And life.
Yeah, right.
Because that's why a lot of people use the gym as the anchor to everything else. Because if you can push yourself during training, chances are it can translate to business. It can translate to other aspects of your life, to where you can push yourself beyond that failure. When that mind is like, all right, I'm done, 5 sets, that's it. And you're like, no, we got 2 more we got to do. So,
and the other thing is, okay, so I've done 5 sets. I still have something left in the tank. Does the workout program call for 5 sets? That's not enough. If you got something left in the tank, if you don't give that, you're not growing. And it's the same in entrepreneurship. If you do enough, or only what's prescribed or what's called for, and then you stop at that.
That's called a 9 to 5.
Right.
That's what that's called. That's called a 9 to 5.
100%.
5 o'clock comes, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah. If you
entrepreneurship is not that.
It can't be. Well, it can be, but it's going to be failure. And it takes the growth happens when you try so hard and you put everything into it and you fail. Because what you learn and what you gain from that is what's going to make you successful the next time around. And so this is my 4th business. The previous 3 have failed, and I'm totally okay with it. I'll fail 99 times. I'm going to start that 100th time until or 9,999, right? I will fail as much as it takes, and one of the things is, it's taken me getting so incredibly obsessed with the gym to really internalize that, right? Because when I go in there on Wednesday and it's arms day, and I take the 50-pound easy bar curl, and I fail, and I'm trying to get 20, and I fail at 16 or 17. Like, next Wednesday, I come in there and I hit 23. Same shit. Or I can do the same amount of reps with the 60-pound easy bar. Like, you see that happen, and then you learn that patience. and you get obsessed with that growth. You get obsessed with that like strength. And right now I'm on such a high starting this new business that I know what it's going to take when this X happens or Y happens or whatever, that like it's so exhilarating to be good at the things that I wasn't good enough at, that made my last businesses fail. Mm-hmm. It's just like, it's like a fucking drug. It's like there's nothing more.
It can be very addictive.
There's nothing more
especially
exciting.
When the results are coming, because that's really what it is too. Once you really start to taste see a little bit, it's like, okay, so let me keep.
And some of the things are so subconscious, and they're the little things. They're the little tiny things that you do because you know you need to do them, and then the bank account starts to grow, and then you realize like, I'm stronger. It's the same as that 23rd rep when you were only able to do 16. You're literally stronger, and I'm just like, there's nothing to me that's more important than that. Because the other thing is like, why are you an entrepreneur and why do you want to be successful? I used to be when I first got involved in like advocacy, and whether it be animal advocacy or like human rights advocacy, I thought, I will live out of a van and campaign for these animals or these people for my whole life and be totally cool with having nothing. And one of my really good friends, I remember the exact moment, and I was driving home at like 7 a.m, and we had a conversation. I said that to him, and he said, what do you think is a more impactful activist? Someone with no money or someone with a lot of money? And it's such a simple thing, and it made me realize that like, what I really need to be doing in life is becoming as successful as possible, publicly and financially, that my impact is literally multiplied.
Yep.
Not only while I'm alive, but also afterwards, I mean, like, I dream of like setting up foundations, and like, rather than working for a nonprofit, donating millions of dollars to a nonprofit. And I am incredibly, I'm super passionate about the power of consumerism and capitalism to accomplish those things.
Yeah. Resources. The more resources you have, the more you can get done.
The more resourceful you are. As much as
people don't like to, it is what it is.
Right. Yeah, and I don't understand the stigma behind that. And another thing is, before I got into this mindset, I remember sometimes being really pissed off at rich people for not spending their money the way that I thought that they should be spending it. And so I can spend time being pissed off at them, but there's only really one thing that I can do about that, which is make my own fucking money and do what I can, what I want to do.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's where I'm at. That's what I have internalized as my mission and my purpose is to have fun doing what I'm doing what I'm good at, and make a lot of money doing it. And
so you can make a lot of change.
That's right. And the last thing that I'm deeply concerned with is the notion that in order for someone to make the world a better place, they have to make themselves better. And it, like you said earlier, you have to start with yourself, and you have to be deeply, deeply introspective. And what are the things that you need to fix, and what are the things that you need to spend time becoming better as a human, not necessarily as a talent or a skill. Like, I'm all for the Gary Vee model of like triple down on what you're good at and fuck the rest. But there's got to be, I think most people lack an incredible amount of empathy. and most people lack and it's not their fault. I'm definitely not faulting anyone, and I'm not necessarily faulting individuals in the animal rights community. Mm-hmm. It's ingrained in them, and two, it's group thought. I'm massively forgiving. Mm-hmm. I'm too understanding. I'm too. I think that people deserve an incredible amount of grace and forgiveness, because being a human is really fucking hard. Mm-hmm. Being an adult is really hard. Being in relationships is really hard. Being a good person takes real work. And so does changing the world. But like, first, you have to we've been describing it. The more you focus on yourself, it seeps into the rest of your life. Like, as you become good at fitness, you become good at business, and vice versa. And as you become good at like saving money and like loving yourself, or whatever it may be, it's all connected. It's all connected. So focusing on taking time out of your day to focus on the little things is so incredibly impactful. And that's something that I've just really started practicing.
No, I'm excited, dude. I am excited for your journey. I'm here for you, man. So you can always have me as a resource.
Appreciate that.
Anytime. Before we wrap this up, I want you to really talk to the people who might be going through the same things you're going through, in terms of really finding themselves. Because I feel like in this podcast, we really talked about you and your continuing journey, but you're just really staying true to yourself. Speak to those individuals out there who might be going through the exact same things, where they're leaving any situation. It could be they left their job, they don't know their identity, they left their relationship, they left their home, the family wasn't getting along with the family, whatever that may be, where now they're trying to find themselves. Because I feel like you're on that path to discovery. What message do you have for those people that are in that position right now? Right.
What is it about yourself that you don't like or you don't love? And spend some time falling in love with those things. First of all, self-awareness. Who am I? What is it? What are some very real truths about myself? I'm good at X. I'm not good at Y. First of all, rejoice in X and forgive yourself for Y. Like everyone is okay for being who they are, what they like to do. And other people's judgment on what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you like, what you don't like, how you are, is based on their own lack of self-love and permeating a judgment based on the fact that they don't love themselves. So spend some time, like, until you become really okay with who you are, you can't love that, right? So it's a self-awareness thing. So when you're going through a transitional period in your life, you just got fired, you just, lost something, spend some time with yourself, and be okay being alone. Right? That's important. Are all it doesn't matter what religion you are. You're ultimately, what I mean by it doesn't matter what religion you are. I mean that this ideal fits into all religion, right? Mm-hmm. You're ultimately in control. The things that you do, the actions that you take, the person that you are, no one is going to do it for you except for you. Like, so when you're okay with yourself, you can learn, okay, what's the next step? You can be confident in that. And the other thing is, this isn't the end. Whatever it is that's next for you, whatever you have to try or whatever, if that fails, everything's still going to be okay. Like, people don't start, or they stop so many times because they're afraid of, if this fails, you know, if I leave this job for this job, or if I leave this job to start something and it fails, that's it, I'm fucked. And that's not true. Everyone needs to think of, if you don't believe that, everyone think of someone that you know of that came from less than you have come from and accomplished something that you want to accomplish.
Well said.
Because everyone knows that person.
Well
so
said.
No one has an excuse. If you lose everything, there's still someone out there that has lost everything and still done big shit. Or still, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be big shit. It still lived a happy life. Right?
I agree.
And so, you know, stop being so scared. Stop being terrified of if this fails, and start understanding that you've got everything that you need, and you need everything that you've got. And so to start being resourceful with those things, especially your time, invest in yourself. Stop investing in meaninglessness. Stop consuming content that you're not going to use. Get off of Reddit. When you invest in yourself and you make yourself a better person, your life becomes so much better. And a lot of times, and the last thing I'll say is, these transitional times, or this time in your life of a loss, is very purposeful. And you have to pay very close attention on how can you make it purposeful. And what is it that the universe is trying to teach you about yourself and about your abilities and about what's right for you, and what lessons is the universe forcing you to practice. It's amazing once you dip below the surface what you start to find. And I love everyone. I just want everyone to be happy. You know, I want everyone to live a life of happiness. And sometimes most people's deepest seated obstacle in their own happiness is their lack of love for themselves.
I agree. So tell people, where can they find you? Tell us your social media, website, etc.
Search Zak Shelton. You can search Zak Shelton on Instagram. I'm the Harvest Zak. Zak Shelton on Facebook. This is colorcast.com is the new agency. Theharvesthands.com is the other agency that I own. Keep a lookout, because most of in the future is going to be based around, you know, me having these conversations. And I'm speaking in September at the Oklahoma City Veg Fest. It's my first like big major speaking gig that I've booked.
Congratulations, bro.
Yeah, man.
Congratulations.
I hope everybody can tune in or make it. And just keep a lookout for the Colorcast work. Like, we're going to be doing some big shit. We got some huge meeting. I mean, I have a huge meeting today, and tomorrow. So, man, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this.
Nah, no problem, man. Thank you, man. Thank you.
I can't wait for us to both just blow the fuck up and like,
absolutely,
meet me in Greece for Yacht Week.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Man, thank you. Like I said, man, I'm excited for your journey, brother. I'm here. I appreciate you coming out, man. To all the listeners out here, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube, the Built for Anything podcast.
Yep.
Subscribe, leave your comments. And that's it for us, man. Peace and love, everyone.
See, man, being in front of that camera, man, it changes people. It really does.